I have been a very bad boy this past winter hibernation with our 2020 GT500. The previous winter, fairly dutifully every couple of weeks, I would go out to each of our vintage Mustangs and 69 Shelby and the new Shelby, fire them up and let them run for a while to keep the battery charged up and keep fluids moving and stuff. This past winter, I got lazy and I just didn't do it. I bought a bunch of battery tenders, but I didn't want to go out when it was cold out in the garages and hook them up, so I figured I'll wait till next season when I put the punk puppies away. Well, we ended up with a bunch of dead batteries because they sat there for so long. And having a dead battery is bad enough. Having to charge them or jump them, get the car started, that's embarrassing. But when a battery discharges to the point where it's flat, it doesn't have sulfuric acid at a high enough concentration for the electrolyte, liquid electrolyte, to keep the battery from potentially having frozen water inside the battery cells occur and crack the cases. We got lucky. It didn't happen to us. There's enough charge in the batteries to keep the electrolyte from going to too high water content. Anyway, with the 2020 Shelby, I tried at our other house to put a charger on the battery, slow charge it, bring it back up. It didn't come up very well. So I did like I did the previous year when I had difficulties. I took off the battery terminals from the posts and the batteries. I used a small battery brush to clean the posts and inside the terminal lugs, put it back on, charge it again. Now the charger I used is much bigger than is necessary. This one has a 400 amp boost to help start an engine with a low battery. I got it because I wanted to have something with some power behind it. But what I did is I slow charged at 2 amps and 10 amps, depending upon how far the battery is charged. And the charger display showed sulfa, S-U-L-F-A, which meant that the charger circuitry recognized the battery was in a condition where the plates were sulphated, where a lot of the sulfur from the sulfuric acid had chemically bonded to the lead plates and coated them. And the way to get rid of that properly is to do a slow charge. And so the sulfur plates, they start to dissolve back into electrolyte slowly. The other way is just crank on the power and knock the sulfation off the plates, but the problem is it doesn't properly get dissolved back into electrolytes. You end up having to replace the battery. You've ruined it. So I let the thing do a slow charge. Now it's on a 2 amp trickle charge, and it has a little green light indicating that, hey, the battery's charged up as far as we can take it. Now, if I were to turn the power off and back on and select the 12 volt 2 amp charge again, if it doesn't already go there, there we go, and I hit start, it shows over 14 volts, which tells me that it is charged as far as it's going to go. It even now says it's fully charged, and the little green light has come on indicating that it's just making current available in case it's needed. So the battery is as fully charged as it's possible to get it. without damaging it. We don't overheat this thing. So what I'm going to do is take this charger system off and connect the Sun VAT 40 VAT volt ampere amperage tester. This is an old unit. These were very popular back in the 70s and 80s, and they have some great features, and they are really wonderful for diagnosing and testing charging circuits, starting circuits, and batteries. So I'll connect this thing up after I take off the battery charger, and I'm going to do a battery load test to see if we brought the battery back properly or not. And cut. So what I'm going to do now that I've hooked this thing up is show how I hooked it up. We have a large positive and negative cable connected to the positive and negative posts of the battery. Now, Mr. Safety says the negative should go to a good ground, but I didn't find the ground I liked close enough for this to connect, so I connected to the battery. Then we have this inductive amp meter pickup with a little arrow that's supposed to point to the positive part of the battery and go around whatever cable it is I want to use to measure current flow in amperes. Then I made sure I was on the internal 18 volt setting for the voltmeter, meaning that the same leads I'm using for the amps is used for voltage settings. Otherwise, I have external 18 volt leads I can use that are this size, but no need. I set this over to the starting position. You can't tell because this paint, after many decades, has been chipped off. But this is for starting circuits, so we use the yellow amperes part of the gauge. It stops at 500 amps versus charging system, the blue 100 amp maximum, positive or negative. Right now we're 0 because I haven't done anything. I then adjusted the 0 setting for amps. Now the general rule I follow when I load test a battery is to see what the cold crank amperage reading is. Divide by 2, and then I put a load on the battery for 15 seconds, and I watch the voltage. I want it to be 9.8 volts or higher at the end of the 15 seconds or so. Now, I don't know the cold cranking amperage capacity of this battery. I'm guessing 600 amps. So I'm going to go and apply whatever I can on here to the battery and then measure after I count 15 and see if we're at 9.6 or higher. If so, the battery has a sufficient charge and is holding. If not, it's bad cell, sulphated coating got knocked off the cells and didn't dissolve back in the electrolyte, internal open, internal short, who knows. So here we go. Linda took note that we got some smoke coming out of here.
Sorry, I turned off the video because I thought we were on fire, but no, it's just
It's because we had so much energy going through the carbon pile. It's going to cool off, we're fine. But anyway, the most amperage I was able to pull to this carbon pile was about 300. I counted slowly, so I know I hit over 10 seconds, maybe close to 15 seconds, and I was still just above 9.8 volts. So that tells me that this battery did recharge properly with a battery charger, and it can hold a charge. No need to replace it. So that's how these things work.